Today we have Hamish here, 22 years old. He started a Shopify app business that within a year could do 200,000 annual revenue and growing.
I ended up managing a team of customer service agents for a big e-com business. And we'd receive 10,000 emails every single month. 3,000 of those were customers saying, can you change my address? God knows what reason the problem just hadn't been solved yet. And we should commercialize this. There's no way this problem doesn't exist. So we built it ourselves.
There are some big businesses. Like you hear the word app on Shopify and you think, oh, like that might not be so big, but Klaviyo, multi-billion-dollar publicly listed company, and it's a Shopify app.
The Shopify app ecosystem's crazy.
Yeah.
Like there are solo app founders doing like $1.5 million a year revenue.
Yeah.
Like there is a plan in my head of where this all goes.
Totally.
Like there is a plan, and there's always been a plan, and like I don't stop thinking about the plan.
They look at Hamish's business and they go, all right, what are your marketing costs? Okay, sweet, 0, because it's just Hamish posting on LinkedIn.
50,000 people see my posts on LinkedIn every week. Founder of a $100 million Shopify Plus brand, comment on my LinkedIn post being like, I'm rooting for you.
Hi, I'm Ishan.
I'm Ed.
And this is the Underqualified podcast where we talk a bit about business and we mix it with banter. It's a business casual podcast.
This is Hamish.
Hello.
This is our guest today. Sometimes we bring in a guest. He's 22 years old and he worked with Ed at Revolt, but now he started a Shopify app business that within a year could do 200,000 annual revenue and growing. Do you want to talk a little bit
Yeah. Discovered a problem at Revolt, dog food their own product for a year, and then went to market in June last year. Side hustle because we bootstrapped, and then went full-time in January, and we're about across the 200K US annual run rate.
Insane. Stay tuned if you're wanting to learn about how we did all this.
You came as like a very hungry, young guy willing to just like jump in, and you're like, what, 19 or something, 20? And just kind of like ready to go. So what like developed that in you? What got that dog in you?
I got that dog in me. I don't know. I like battle between that because I remember going to Revolt and being around hungry dogs for the first time because you guys were all super hungry and feeling like really stupid because I just spent like the last 3 years like working hard at uni, but also like partying a lot. And it was like a realization to, whoa, like if you put focus into your life as a 20 something, like you can actually do cool stuff. With clothing brands there, and you had your Instagram obviously, and like Andre's a beast, and all of these people who are just crushing sub 25-year-old startup, like doing 60 mil, pretty inspiring. But yeah, I mean, when I was 18, I started subscribing to a few different people that did like a lot of financial literacy content. And Cam, oldest brother, was a famous YouTuber and like effectively was able to retire when he was 22 or something.
Yeah, well, that is insane.
That's fun.
And
like, I want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, after seeing that lifestyle, I was like, oh, like I want that for myself.
Yeah.
And I've always like, I guess somewhat arrogantly had like a lot of self-belief that I could do good stuff, that I had like a good brand on me and like good motivation, whatever. And I remember me reading this financial literacy content and finding out that if you had $2 million in an investment fund, you could retire. Like you could pay yourself 80 grand a year.
Like that doesn't sound that crazy. Yeah.
It's like, it does, like it's a lot of, like for a lot of people, they're like, that's a lot of money, but the articles break it down and they say, if you invest 2.5 grand every month, you'll retire when you're in 25 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, most people retire when they're 60, 65. I'm currently 18. If I can hit that by 36, that's a big W.
Yeah, that's good.
And were you thinking about, and you were
46,
thinking about
sorry.
this type of stuff because you're exposed to it through your brother.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, many 18-year-olds aren't really thinking about, all right, how much money do I need to like take out of the S&P 500 every single year so I can retire? Like most 18-year-olds aren't thinking about that. So you already had that. And then was it when you went from New Zealand to Melbourne and you started hanging out with these guys and you see all the money they're making, did that just like amplify that sort of that I need to get to that number young, but also like now I need more than that number? Or?
I became super aggressive when I came to Melbourne. Like initially the thing was like investing 2.5 grand or whatever, like that's very achievable.
And you're like,
retiring
like,
it would be mid 40s. I got the math wrong. Like mid 40s, like huge.
That's insane. Yeah.
And you're like, no, I want it 25.
And that like was a real like goal. Like it was very clear what you need to do to hit that target.
Yeah.
And you could kind of break it down and think about what like your life journey would look like, which I've always kind of done. And then I remember Cam getting uber wealthy and he was on 25 and I was like, oh, like I'd actually really like that by 25. And I was thinking about this at uni because I had him, but it was like a pipe dream. Like how the hell are you going to have $1 million when you're 25? was like the target, classic, like Stephen Bartlett had this exact same thing, and then I came to Melbourne and met all of you guys, and there were people who were like well beyond $1 million at 25 or like a lot of people sitting in that threshold, and it stopped feeling as like a pipe dream, and it was like, well, if I like really go after it, maybe that could happen for me. And then as you guys all saw, like, I became super aggressive, I suppose, in like my personal development, like how I thought about getting there, and like things just worked really well. Like personal life timing just like happened, with the Revolt opportunity, and then like the problem that came out of that, which obviously started the business. I was fortunate to get paid like moderately well the last couple of years while working for startups, that like now I've got like full confidence that I'll fucking hit that target when I'm 25. The self-belief is there. And when the self-belief is there, it also feels more and more easy because stuff's happening.
Your brother or the Revolt guys, they're doing like very niche things, making YouTube videos or making merch for YouTube. Like these are not things that people can, go to Seek and apply for a job. That's the exact reason why, and that's probably a lesson that you learned, is the way you're going to get there. You're going to have to do something like solving a unique problem set for people that they will pay you some money. And like, that's like,
well, it's funny.
We all have that moment,
It's funny that we're in this office because I used to think I'm either going to get there by 25 through crypto or starting a business. Like those are the only two options. It was like, how do you do that class crypto business? And crypto wasn't an option for me at the time.
And did you have any, before Grog and stuff, did you have any like wacky ideas that you're like, or like any ways that you thought you were going to make millions of dollars in?
Because it's on the manifesting topic. It's like I split it in two things in my brain, right? The manifesting is like the thinking part of it, right? And you have to do the thinking to get to a goal or a concept, right? So 25, 2 mil in the bank, whatever it is, right? You have to think that and want that. But then that doesn't manifest itself just by sitting there and wanting it. Like basically everything that Hamish would have done for the last 5 years would be in some way trying to get to that goal. And there's just no wasted time. And you're like, all right, I've got these two business opportunities. Which one's going to get me to that goal faster? Which, even if it's more risky, even if it's this or that, that's kind of how I've seen it. So I've I've just like, oh, what's this option, this option, this option, this, blah, blah, drink brand, Instagram, whatever it is. Just like followed it and gone, actually, no, fuck that. That's not going to work. Like, not enough product market fit. This thing, no, not going to work, blah, blah. Just constantly trying different things, which is interesting because you can end up working on things you're not that passionate about. Yeah. But after a while of trying, and obviously you can like feed things like wanting passion or wanting to actually do it into your like algorithm for deciding whether something's going to get you there when you're 25 or not. Because if you're not passionate about it and you burn out, you're not going to be able to make money, you're not going to be motivated. So I don't know. I've done lots of different shit.
Yeah, because I was just thinking like every single like period of the thing I was working on, I thought I would become a millionaire in that specific thing. So
totally.
I did the podcast stuff really early on, since 2017. I was like, you know what? One day when podcasts are big, I'll become a millionaire of that. That wasn't my lane. E-commerce, I was building a bunch of D2C brands. I thought that's how I was going to make my first $1 million.
Nope.
Stocks and crypto is kind of how
that was my first.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Crypto was fucking, if I put 10 times the amount of money in, I would have been a millionaire. I'm such an idiot.
But it's like, it's like I ran into whatever the thing I'm working on within that industry. I think, oh, this is the thing that's going to make me. And then, you know what? Like life isn't that easy. It's, it just happens. It's right place, right time for I think most people. But you're right with the whole, it's not just manifesting. It's like, all right, you have to combine that with execution. And that's what the aggressiveness that you're talking about. That is like, that you're pushing, you're willing it into existence. I think a thing that's so underrated about like people being like aggressive about the way they work and is that, a lot of the time when you're working on a business, you're waiting on other people. So if you are not aggressive, where you have to like ping people to do something, you're just stretching your goals out further and further and further. So like we'll talk about your business in a second, but in a very short amount of time, you can talk about the numbers if you're happy with it, but you've done like quite a bit of, growing over the past year. And a lot of it is that I'm assuming meeting people and, saying, meet me next week for coffee, or let's do a call tonight. And there's this funny story about someone, I forgot his name, but someone that came on MFM. I think maybe it was Sully, and he was like, he did a call with someone, and then they were like, all right, we need to progress. We need to do another call. So I'll call you next week. He's like, how about tonight? And he was like, wait, what? 2 calls in one day? I've never done that with anyone. He's like, yeah, how about tonight? Wild. So that type of like aggressiveness, I think we definitely see it in how you work, seeing you in the office. But yeah.
Well, because there's just no time to spare, is there? Like,
no, there's no stopping right now.
I guess there's the negative side of things, right? Where you can look at like possible competition that there's a fucking Ukrainian team out there building auto editing too. Like, you know what I mean? There's that. And then there's also all the people that are watching your success now that would have been going, oh yeah, look at this fuck with the auto editing. Yeah, that's not going to work. Yeah. And then now they're going, oh shit, yeah, let's actually invest in that, or let's build it ourselves. And then on the positive side, you're like, hang on, every day I fucking grind now is one less day to that 2 mil. And then obviously you're gonna hit that 2 mil and you're gonna go, oh, what's next?
Yeah. The aggression that like I started was just like I think the biggest thing that has really changed my trajectory since coming to Melbourne and feeling like really stupid, frankly, or just like, behind. Even when at uni I felt like ahead in New Zealand, and then I came here and I was like, oh, actually no, you can do like a lot of growth. Suddenly I just started like consuming and putting stuff out at the same time.
Yeah.
Like I used to think that I learned a lot at uni, and then I started like reading a book every week and reading a lot of like blogs and different content and watching great YouTube videos and having conversations with people who were like ahead of me and in the right circles. That like when I look back now, I'm like, for the last 24 months, I don't think I've taken my eyes off the goal, or like woken up one morning and being like forgotten about what I'm doing and why.
Yeah. Like I'd walk into the office on the weekends and you're there. It's like you are 24/7.
And that's like pros and cons, right? Like I don't like, it's really hard to shut off because like I'm weirdly just wired towards that and have been for a while. But holy shit, like I get a lot of satisfaction out of it. Like I'm having so much fun at the same time,
Can we go from Revolt?
Yeah.
And then
like the story was that like I came to Revolt, and it was my first ever professional experience, and I ended up managing a team of customer service agents for a big e-com business. So
and a lot of customer support tickets.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff, customer support tickets. And we'd receive 10,000 emails every single month from customers needing something from us. And 3,000 of those were customers saying, can you change my address?
Right.
And I was like, well, we spend 40 hours a week handling those queries. If the customers should just be able to do that themselves. I'd done tickets, and I was like, they should be able to do it themselves. There was no other app on the marketplace for like God knows what reason. The problem just hadn't been solved yet. And so we built it ourselves, dog fooded our product for a year, not even thinking about the potential business opportunity there.
It was just used internally by Revolt employees. Yeah. And what is the reason why would someone want to change their address? Is it like typos, misspellings, or they're just like, oh, it should be sent here, or like what is the reason that problem happens in the first place?
Like most commonly, it's just Apple Pay autofilling previous house address or your ex-girlfriend's or like your mum's or whatever it is.
Yeah, you don't want it going there.
It's like 1% of customers make a mistake.
Those crazy fucking YouTuber drops, people think they've got 5 minutes and then just go, oh fuck, I put them, I did the wrong address. Yeah.
We were like, that was kind of like the timing thing. We were very lucky to be running a pre-order model, and for 16-year-old Minecraft kids that once they were on the internet, because they would just rampage on, and they would have a lot more mistakes than a traditional e-com brand.
Yeah.
But like still, there are these big, $100 million companies that we work with now that spend 40 hours a week changing addresses, or at least used to.
And how much of the orders, let's say there's 100 orders, how much of them would be?
It's about 1 or 2%.
1 or 2% of, okay, so it's like
we'll make a genuine mistake,
Yeah, we'll make a genuine mistake and go, hey, and I guess this is probably the question that people are thinking about right now. Why doesn't like a Shopify or someone why can't you edit your own order?
Yeah.
Why do you have to come out and build this product?
Yeah. I mean, it's really challenging when you work with a big brand. Like we've got these warehouse management softwares and the ERP and like people handling their inventory in multiple locations and whatnot. That's where it gets really challenging. And that's why it hadn't been built. It was like, it's impossible.
Yeah.
And that's what we heard when we launched. They're like, you can work with the mid-market, but you'll never work with our $50 million brand. Like, we've got too complex systems. It's not possible.
Right.
And Shopify also, like, they've got this ethos, which I love. Very smart, kind of like Windows, I suppose, where they think that 90% of their value should be delivered in-house and 10% should be through third-party apps.
Yeah.
Right.
And they only tend to cannibalize third-party apps when you infringe on their payment processing fees and start stealing their revenue.
Right. Yeah.
That's like historically been their journey.
They historically like invest in the third party.
They do, yeah.
In their ecosystem, and
when you get to like $1 million of revenue, Shopify Ventures might knock on your door.
right. Yeah.
Which is obviously the dream for any app founder.
And probably the biggest Shopify for people that aren't familiar with Shopify apps, there are some big businesses. Like you hear the word app on Shopify and you think, oh, like that might not be so big, but Klaviyo, right?
Yeah.
Klaviyo is, I think, a multi-billion dollar publicly listed company, and it's a Shopify app.
Yeah.
And so that's probably the biggest example. But yeah, some of these businesses can be really big, and there's
like
a handful.
There's weird shit of like order editing things, like niche things that you just need. Like what else have we got on Grog? We've got like a payment processing one that
review
changes
app.
something from one format to another, and it's like $4 a month. But if you've got enough stores paying for that thing, it's unbelievable.
The Shopify app ecosystem's crazy.
Yeah.
Like there are solo app founders doing like $1.5 million a year revenue.
And they've got like 25 apps.
Because you can build an app, and like if you build a good enough product, you don't get support tickets.
Yeah.
And they get really good natural acquisition because Shopify merchants are always searching up the problems that they have.
It's a great lifestyle business for the ones
it's a
that
very good lifestyle business.
For the ones that they get to that scale and they're like, you know what? I don't need to like raise money for it. I don't need to like invest in ads or get more customers on board. It's like I have a pretty sticky user base, and I don't really need to maintain it that much, and I get $1 million every year in my bank account. It's like
I don't think has anyone like what's your retention rate?
We've had like 2 people churn.
Because I've never deleted it,
and I've never been able to contact them. Like I didn't onboard them and that kind of stuff. But like lifestyle business, when we won the Udi, who were like our first paying customer, I was like, wow, we could either try and grow a multi-million-dollar company for acquisition, or we could just work with 5 Udis.
Yeah,
right.
And work like work like 2 hours a week. Like
and there's
maybe
there's no clauses about when you get paid out and waiting.
Yeah, it just comes in every month.
Every month.
You sign a few big contracts and like say la vie. And I think a lot of people do that. Lock the app up and just say see you later.
Build this app internally at Revolt, and you guys were using it. And obviously, episode 1, go listen about what happened to Revolt. But I'm assuming when Revolt came to an end, you were thinking about what to do next. You've already developed, and you were in charge of being a part of this internal app. And you're like, oh, maybe this could be a standalone business, and I could run it. And could you talk about that sort of moment and what you did? What was the first thing you did when you're like, I want to start a business?
Yeah, as Revolt was sunsetting,
I
was like looking
sunsetting / crashing. Yeah,
I was looking for jobs, and I remember I was putting order editing on my CV. Obviously, like I was literally putting it in my CV, and I was talking about it in interviews because it was like the coolest thing I'd ever done. Like I came up with an idea and we built a product, and obviously, when you're putting it in your CV, you're like, oh, this is actually a really good product. And you're writing, saved us $80,000 You're like,
oh, actually. Yeah. And Mr. Beast.
And so I reached out to Kara, my co-founder, who developed the app for us, and said like, hey, buddy, like we should commercialize this. Like there's no way this problem doesn't exist. Like let's get after it.
It already existed for you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have that. I guess he's just chilling. He's got a bunch of apps, whereas you needed...
Kara's like the prime example of lifestyle business.
And how did you meet your co-founder? Like, what was
through the Revolt team? He was like, Kara's done Shopify ads for like 5 years. Lifestyle, he does like a lot of money monthly, and doesn't really have to work on it. And he was always an internet kid. Like he ran logo courses and things like that online. And obviously we worked with internet people who just knew him. Yeah, Smith, who did our animations, knew him because they're both Canadian. Bless Carey's from Toronto.
Right.
I love that guy.
Love Canadians in general. They're
awesome.
And what was the split between the responsibilities that you're like, you'll do this and I'll do this?
Yeah, well, we're so fortunate that I can't code. So it was like you're all dev, and he's like his app. He just says like it grows naturally and grows just flatline because I can't do marketing or sales.
Yeah.
And he just like he was like, yeah, like let's work on this together. You be the marketing sales guy. I don't know what.
It is the classic duo. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, because you don't want to both be sales guys and competing.
Nah, he sends me memes all the time of like the sales guy in the suit and like just like the Justin Bieber and Hailey Bieber meme, and he's like Justin Bieber in his tracksuit and I'm in a red dress.
I think maybe one of the first times we met, or like we went to a park, something. You're in a suit.
I think that was like one of your last days at your old job.
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been. But yeah, we started building the app, and the app like wasn't ready for public launch. So for 6 months or so, I was working at another startup, a software startup, and I was learning how to do sales because I went from CX, ecom, and then I did B2B SaaS sales at another startup, which was like instrumental for me.
Great experience.
Oh, amazing. I jumped into this incredible business, like working with the smartest people I've ever met that have done it before, which is very different to Revolt. It was like first time, doing this.
What's it called where you're like building the bridge as you walk on it? Like that's what it was like.
And I had like a real sales leader mentoring me. And then in the background, we were building this app, but it was mostly Kara because he was finishing up the product ready for public launch. And I was like writing strategy and typing up blog posts and things and like just trying to do whatever I could to get ready for go to market.
And you can't sell something that's not available
No,
yet.
you can't. I probably should have had more conversations to talk about like product market fit and getting testing with people in the industry, but I just didn't know anyone and I didn't know when it was going to happen. So I didn't do, which is like a mistake. I didn't do the traditional, get customer feedback before you take your product to market.
I think that's all a bunch of fucking
it's definitely like ideal though. But we launched in June. So 6 months after Revolt sunsetted pretty much, product's ready, we go to market, there's a big launch post. I'd already been posting on LinkedIn fairly frequently, so there was like a good, I guess, background of my personal brand to get some initial traction and momentum.
You started the LinkedIn at Revolt. I feel like that was a really like
that was part of the aggression, right?
Anyone with like some unique perspective, you should put yourself out there. It doesn't have to be LinkedIn, it could be Twitter or something like that, but that was such a good move on your part. Because it's paid off big time.
Well, that's the top of your funnel, right?
I couldn't do what I do right now without it. I don't know what the business would look like if I didn't do that first post when I joined Revolt. And like you're on the nose, like the thinking was, I'm in a unique situation, I should share it.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
This is unique for...
And if even 20
and it wasn't
people
even that
are
unique.
interested.
Like it was a cool internship.
Yeah.
Wait, how old are you?
22.
Yeah, so you're very young, you're much younger than us. And I think anybody else, I think a lot of people listening to this are probably like younger, 22, 20, 18, whatever. Take this on board, what he did. You might not feel like you're not, you're probably thinking, well, he was in this unique situation, blah, blah, blah. Go and force yourself into these unique situations. A lot of people don't like romanticize their life and they might think whatever they're doing is boring, but you could pretty much write content about anything. Sean said this pretty well to me one time where he was like, people create content either as the expert or the novice. So even if, let's say, you're not an expert or you're not in some cool, unique situation, you could be the novice and learn about something and write content about that, and people will are learning with you. So there's always something in some way that you could put yourself out there and start building your brand or whatever. Because for you,
life-changing.
It's life-changing, right? Because now you're growing this personal brand. People are interested in what you're doing, and now you can attach it to a business that you could potentially, if it's relevant enough to funnel them onto it.
Because they kind of following you for your story, and then now the story's getting a bit more juicy, and they're going, "Oh shit, this thing's fucking working!" And then that story, and the app itself, and the people following you, all e-commerce, all creator economy, and they're your clients now.
Oh, it's wild, and I mean, it's we all work. That was part of the Revolt aggression was, all of the people around me who were really successful, the first people under 25 that I'd ever seen so successful, bar people on the internet who are also creators, was just like the realization that if you have an audience, like you're going to win in life.
Right.
Like name me one person who has an audience that's not succeeding. It's pretty hard to kind of come up with someone unless they get cancelled.
This generation is like cheat code.
Yeah.
If you build that audience, obviously it's hard to build an audience.
Of course.
And it's hard to build a product that fits them. But if you get all that right, and you kind of built them as you went, and it fit really nicely. Yeah.
I mean, it started off with like announcing the internship, and then we were doing some cool, like Revolt was a cool business. Like why not share it online? But like it was super cringy, and I'd hate to it wasn't cringy, but like at the time I was like, I hope my friends don't see this. And you post to crickets as well. Like I was getting like 300 impressions, but I'd still try and do it once a week. And often I didn't, and I didn't like beat myself up over it. And sometimes you had a really good one, and that felt damn good.
Yeah,
And
that's the
those
hack
wins-
to just keep. You said once a week.
Yeah.
Just keep doing it. Obviously, there's like some external stuff that you could do to like market it and push it so more people see it. But at the very minimum, if like this podcast, if we just like keep doing it, and like something's gonna click and work. So it's just like having that. Man, you had the aggression, but you also had like the dedication to just like.
So have you
a lot
got,
of people just give up.
Have you got any advice to someone who, let's say they are in a unique situation, right? They've they're working for a cool company, they're building something, whatever it is, and like, have you learnt kind of as you posted once a week? Were you A/B testing different formats and like what do you feel like when you're draft? It's probably a bit more creative than the one of like, I got married and this is what it taught me about sales, like that bullshit LinkedIn stuff. But like, what's your when you're piecing it together? Like, what are you trying to communicate and how do you do it so effectively so that it gets engagement on LinkedIn?
Oh, it's a feeling. I mean, I was lucky that I've always loved writing, so I think I have like a pretty decent writing style. That obviously has gotten better from posting weekly. Like you get better at it by doing it. But it's a feeling. You know, I wrote a post last night and I wasn't that passionate about it. And like, it's not going to do that great in the morning. I find the posts that do best are the ones where I'm really passionate about the topic and I want to share that with the world, or I'm a little bit nervous about how it's going to be received.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Because like the nerves are there because it's a little bit out of your comfort zone and the readers pick up on that and then they like it and they get more reads.
Are you pressuring yourself like, every Friday night, I'm fucking doing this one? Or is it more so when an event comes up, when you've hit a goal, when you've done this, you've done that, or when you feel inspired to post? It
started out just posting when I could, and then it turned into like, I'm going to try to do this weekly.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wouldn't because I just didn't have anything to say. Because my life wasn't that interesting. Or like, I don't know, I was struggling. And then when we launched the business, like following the launch post, I tried to do weekly and it would tend to be around product launches and things like that. You know, we were lucky that it was obviously easy to post as we were growing something. And now I try and post daily and I usually write it the night before. And fortunately, life is like, things have been so crazy for us that usually there is something to post about. But a night like last night, like I wanted to do something slightly more educational or like bloggy, which is very different to this crazy thing happened or whatever it is.
I think that for anybody listening, go to Hamish's LinkedIn. We'll put it in the description.
Follow me.
So yeah, go follow LinkedIn.
Copy what he's done for yourself or follow along his journey.
Yeah, following his journey. But really look at how he posts and how he's building an audience and how you're like interacting and engaging with other people and
replying to all the comments.
This is like, you're literally a masterclass for all these other people that want to put themselves out there and in order to generate opportunities, because I think it's insane how young you are and how well you do this. I don't know. Like, I'm guessing you say you learned it from Revolt and stuff, but like, was there anyone else that was kind of that you drew inspiration from doing this? Because I'm trying to think of how you became like this.
Yeah, I think it was a mix of like wild self-belief. Sometimes I have these conversations with people where they're like, how have you got the confidence to do this or whatever? And I remember ever since I set that goal, like, yes, I said it was a pipe dream, but I also have always had this weird feeling in my like body and self-belief that like, no matter what happens, like I'm going to be good. Like I'm going to be fine. Like I'm not going to end up in the streets or like whatever. Like I'll get what I want.
And if I just have
to go after it.
Yeah.
And then, I always really liked writing. And I don't know, like, I think like you've done content as well. I think you do have to have some belief that what you say is interesting.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're never going to have the balls to post.
Right.
And I definitely like think that my story is interesting. I think what I care about, deeply and enjoy talking about is slightly different to the norm, and like people latch onto that. And I also like my dreams personally, since like starting uni, have been to like inspire or educate.
Yeah.
Like I find that really fulfilling, and LinkedIn's a great outlet for that because I know there's a bunch of uni students that follow me, and I get messages from them. Like I got a message from a guy who's like, I started working at startups because of you. Yeah. And like I'm laughing at
welcome to hell,
or like people are just like, it's so sick. And like from the business perspective, I mean, like people are buying auto editing, yes, but people are also buying like my brand.
Yeah.
And they
whatever
like,
you do next and after, like they're following you now, or at least they know of you. So when they see you again, or when someone approaches them about a problem that your business solves, they'll think, oh, I know Hamish and he does this thing called auto editing. It's like the ultimate funnel that
it is.
That I think you're just at the beginning. Like I could genuinely see you like a bit big, like a Gary V type.
I think Tim Ferriss.
Tim Ferriss, sorry, yeah, I don't know if that's insulting saying Gary V. I mean, like the size
you
and
gotta
scale.
go to a toy store and buy it.
I could see like I could see millions of people, being inspired and like and you educating them about, and it's like that personal brand. Tim Ferriss is a good one. You generally have that, and I think that will like happen pretty quickly for you if you just keep doing.
Honestly, it's your journey, right? Like right now, you're. Because I think what happened to Tim Ferriss, he had like a protein supplements thing, and he was like 21 to 25, and then he got that and was working kind of 80 hours a week and fucking hated it and was making like 500K US a year and was just like, I'm quitting. And then he left and then managed to run that business on 4 hours a week. And then he was like, that's cool. I'm gonna write a book about that. And then that was a 4-hour work week, which was like New York Times bestseller and blah, blah, blah. And then that kind of led him to writing more books. And then now he does the podcast. And like same thing with you. It's like, whatever the journey is, you're going to find a way to kind of either write about it, communicate it to people, help people that are maybe like, you know, if you end up, you hit that goal at 25 and you go, fuck, what am I going to do with all this money? All right, I'm going to work it out. And then I'm going to tell people what they should do when they're 25 and they get $2 million. Like you'll be kind of ahead and you'll be like a really good resource for
You'll be a fucking mogul doing, having an audience and knowing how to build businesses and connecting the two. That's, I think that's what Tim Ferriss and all those guys have done.
And I think a really interesting thing for you as well will be working out how to make it not as time intensive for you and then being able to kind of build a family of apps that can support all the clients you already have, so that like you've built not only personal network and personal brand, you've got a network of e-commerce companies, like the biggest names in the game right now. And you can just build, you know what they need without, like they're not building it themselves. They're making fucking t-shirts. So you can go, order editing. They also need that thing that fixes the shipping code, blah, blah. You can build that for them. And it's like, it's another $20 a month and on and on and on.
Yeah. I think like the thing with the content stuff is that like, and you guys were talking about it a little bit before of like aggression and executing on things.
Yeah.
Like there is a plan in my head of like where this all goes.
Totally.
Like there is a plan and there's always been a plan, and like I don't stop thinking about the plan. And like when we launched order editing and I wrote the strategy book, like there's a book that I took that from my last startup I worked at, this idea of like write down how you're going to go to market and like how you're going to get to 1 million, 2 million, whatever. And I wrote down like the number one way we're going to grow is through my personal brand. We're going to tell a founder-led story, and that's how we're going to grow. And that was both because I think it was the smartest flywheel we could build for the business, but also like personally, I want that. Like it's like that's the ideal growth journey, is that you do have an audience, and then you can either like, I talk about like my personal dreams of either like lecturing at a really like great university to 20-something-year-olds in business that you can get into because you've got the experience, or doing it through content. Might as well sit up
it's
both.
The same thing. It's literally the same thing.
Yeah.
You're talking to that same audience, and just for people listening, do you have any like public stats you can say so far about order editing?
Like from maybe like what it looked like when you launched, and then 3 months in, 3 months after that, what it's kind of
where it's at now from zero, because it's only recently launched. You said in June last year.
June last year. We were doing
your 1 year's coming up.
1 year's coming up. June last year, and then we were doing $0 for I think 4 months while we figured out how to work with warehouses. September we won the Uri, and we won a few other clients by the end of the year, and we were doing about like maybe 30K US a year. I quit my job and said let's go full time. January this year started full time on the business. I think we got to around about 180K AUD by the end of Q1. And now we're up to about like 270, 280.
And maybe 22, and you're talking about these numbers, and like
it's super special. I mean, we just have such strong product market fit. A lot of things are working really well. Like one, there's no competition. Like there isn't really a competing app, which is very unique. Like in the Shopify ad sphere. And then like the audience is really building, and it's a flywheel. You know,
Yeah.
like I look at like we're talking about the calendar.
Yeah.
I look at my calendar for the last 2 weeks. And the result of that is because like 50,000 people see my posts on LinkedIn every week.
Right.
And I'm like, if that goes to 100,000 every week, what does my calendar look like?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, the opportunity.
The lead gen
Your
just should
calendar's
keep
fucked
compounding.
because if you have 10 calls a day, and like in the beverage industry, like I kind of make an effort to like, because it's, you know, if someone's making a limoncello spritz or whatever, it doesn't really compete with us. And so we can just share information, right? And same thing if you're talking to an underwear brand and the Udi, and then they're actually friends. The underwear brand isn't your client yet.
Yeah.
They can talk to the Udi and go, yeah, so what's your tech stack like? And they're like, there's this order editing thing you fucking have to have.
Yeah.
And then that's your problem is if you're doing all these calls now, they're all going to recommend it because it's a great product.
And they're so much more likely to as well because they're buying from my brand. Like our clients like love working with us.
Yeah.
Because like they feel like they're
You mean like working like with you, like you guys as the people? Yeah.
Well, they know Kara and I, and they're like, oh my God, we're like changing these young guys' lives.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they feel that. They like want us to succeed.
Yeah.
Like they'll like
They're sold into your story.
like the founder of a $100 million Shopify Plus brand literally commented on my LinkedIn post being like, I'm rooting for you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Like,
that's
which like you don't get as a B2B SaaS company.
Yeah. Nah,
Like who the hell cares about B2B SaaS? Yeah, like that,
Yeah.
like that emotional investment.
It is insane that you're right. Like, where would you guys be without like the story that you're selling? And
be a hard grind, man. I mean, it is a hard grind, but it would be a real uphill battle.
And so, like, you guys built the Shopify app. You've got this. Your acquisition channel is through you essentially, and that scales with how your brand develops and grows. What is like the plan here? So you've just said the numbers before. I know you know that you want to do more and you will do more. Are you just kind of building this to like do the category we talked about before, which is a lifestyle business where, you know, I know you got like 1 or 2 co-founders in the business and you guys all split it equally. And that's, you know, if it's $1 million, a couple $100,000 a year for relatively
At
low
fucking
maintenance.
22. Find me an investment banker at 22 that's making that much, you know?
Or like, are you going to continue scaling this? Do you want to raise money for it? Venture money? You know, get it to 5, 10, $20 million and then sell it? Like what is like the end game that you and your co-founders have talked about here?
Yeah. I mean, what we wrote down in that strategy book a year ago, and like Kara and I really thought about this, was we're going to stay super lean.
Yeah.
We're not going to take venture funding. We have always been open to investment from clients or from people who are like a distribution channel that can really accelerate things.
Yeah.
And now where we're at today is that I want to start really going to market in the US, and then we'll have we've got a hire in the UK. We've got a UK market lead. I think what the business looks like is we have a UK market lead, a US market lead in Australia, and maybe some additional software support for Kara, like another dev.
Yeah.
And we might raise money from some clients or a couple like partners during like process, like
So
maybe
smart.
in the next couple months.
Yeah.
It's like small amount because we don't need the funding.
Yeah.
Like we're not hiring a huge team. Those hires don't need to happen immediately. We just want people on the cap table so they're incentivized to like really accelerate things.
They can actually grow the business instead of some like
yeah.
venture fund.
I
Exactly.
love that. Like I remember when I was 18, we had like a pharmacy delivery app, and the whole goal was just to get venture capital funding. Right? We didn't even know what the fuck that
Pay our salaries for
what
the
that
year.
felt like. Right? We were like, oh, we want to raise money because that's what all these people on LinkedIn do, and like that's what Facebook did, and blah blah blah. And then now, like we're at the point of with Grog, like we're raising money and we're saying no to lots of people because it's like, well, no, you're not going to put us in X number thousand of stores. You're not going to do this for us, so we're not taking your money. It's a funny thing to say no because I'm sure you could raise a good chunk of money from someone, but
For sure.
like,
And
are you
you've
going to
got
get
the
us
story as
more
well.
clients?
Yeah.
No.
But it's like we don't need cash. We need leads.
Yeah.
Like you always want leads.
So wise.
Your costs are so low.
And
It's insane how you know this. That like these are all things that people like stumble across later on and like figure out.
After they've
like,
got a big fat VC on their board and they only got $1 million for them. And
Well, I guess like rewinding the journey, like it's from working at startups.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I learned about content at Revolt, and I learned about like I think hustle and grind and like being aggressive. And then I worked at another startup that was extremely intentional about the strategy and how they grew. And I read their 50-page strategy book written from founder who's like still the smartest guy I've ever met.
Yeah. And you're not shy of asking questions.
No, like they were huge mentors for me. Like I was a bloody sponge there for a year. It was the best year ever.
I think
like
you got to do
a
year of sponging is something I would definitely prescribe to people.
More.
And I saw it firsthand. Like 30% of our revenue at that business was driven from a couple of our investors who were partners in the industry kind of thing. So I wanted to have the same go-to-market. It looked good. And it has it is. And then we had a mil by the end of the year. Like a mil ARR US is the game plan. Like that's our like North Star metric. And I think we will hit it. You know, keep growing like 20% month on month, and we'll
that's
smash through that.
That's an insane growth rate.
We'll smash through that easy.
that is insane. I'm gonna like let everyone in on a dirty little secret.
Ishan likes wearing women's underwear.
No. I actually, when we're talking about how you're like, I don't want to take venture funding. We don't need the money, and other people, they have like the goal of we need to go to VCs and raise money. From the outside, people that don't know much about startups looking in, someone could raise $20 million for their business and then they grow, and they sell the business for, let's say, $100 million. But since they took in investor money, they own a very small part of that business. And so they might sell for $100 million and look very successful, but they might get $2 million of that, right? Whereas in your case, you're like, I don't need the venture money. We have some investors from like our clients that help accelerate the business, but I could sell this for 20, 30 million. And I would actually come out of that business with more money than the guy that sells it for 100 million or 200 million. And I don't think many people realize that some of the most richest people I personally know never took in venture money, and they may have not sold a company for $1 billion, but they've sold it for 100 million and they own 85% of it. So they get 85 mil in the bank. And so they're the most liquid. They're much richer than the people that end up raising venture funding.
Yeah. And that was the game plan. I mean, I talked about the 25 like target and things like that. And I like knew like retirement figures in my head.
And you'll be making that per year when you're 25.
But like when Kara and I caught up about the app and like what we want to do with this before we launch at market, it's like, okay, what are us as founders? What do we want to achieve here? We both agreed on a number. And that number is significantly more than anyone would ever need to retire. But it's not like ludicrous amounts of money. Like I don't need $20 million personally. Because I don't want like a private jet or whatever. maybe one day, but not.
We can split one.
Not that's not being the goal. Yeah, like if we took money, the acquisition target would need to hit would be a lot higher and a lot harder to achieve.
Because investors, they come in and if they're putting money, let's say at a $10 million valuation, they want a 10x on that or 20x or whatever it is. So now instead of your original goal was we just want to build a $20 million business. Now they're like forcing you to build a $200 million business.
And it might not work at that scale.
And it might, and just who knows, like the dynamics of your business might not be suited to that or who knows. So it's a lesson that people I think are starting to get a lot more now. But your business doesn't need venture funding unless it does.
And I think a lot of VCs in the realistic world, we're not talking Uber or Beyond Meat or any like kind of crazy capital raising. They will invest in you only when you've got a tried and tested kind of money printing machine where like they look at Hamish's business and they go, all right, what are your marketing costs? Okay, sweet, 0, because it's just Hamish posting on LinkedIn. And they'll go, all right, and then how much you make a month? All right, sweet, this thing prints money already. And it's the same thing of having like a good Facebook ad conversion or like whatever your marketing plan is. And then that, your product profit margins are amazing because the product's built and then there's 100% margin. But they'll only invest if you've got a money machine already. So you don't need to take it on. Obviously, it can really help grow your business if you're only a small startup in Melbourne and you want to be Australia-wide or whatever, and you need some money for that. That's a kind of different story. But really, I would advise, unless it's a really strong partner with like industry connections and e-com, like whatever it is, don't take the money.
Well, we could raise, I don't know how much money we could raise, but let's say we raise a couple $1 million and we could build out a huge team. I think it would take and that you do that to accelerate the business. Like we could grow a lot faster if we had a sales team, I'm sure, or like there were 3 Hamishes posting on LinkedIn or running a bunch of ads. And we would accelerate, but would we hit our goal faster? I've always thought no. Like I think we've got, like I genuinely think Kara and I could hit our targets in like a year and a half or 2 years. If we took money and even with a massive team accelerating things, I think would take 3 or 4 or 5 or 6.
And venture funding makes sense when you have a serious threat or competition. So an example is like the scooter, remember the scooter craze, Lime and
Lime.
Bird? They ended up raising billions of dollars because VCs were like, hey, look, if we just give you money that you on a unit economics basis can afford to lose money and not be profitable on acquiring customer in order to beat the threat out. We're happy to do that. So you saw those scooter apps, they raised $1 billion and they're like, we're going to spend more money to acquire a customer than you so that we can end up taking the total market share. And at a point when we've beaten you in that market, we'll eventually do things like Uber did this model where raised a bunch of money, dominated the market, and now they're doing smart decisions to become profitable and make it make sense on a unit economic basis. But Uber's a very rare example.
That only works when fucking interest rates are zero. Like money was really cheap. Now it's
scooter app cannot raise $1 billion.
You get FOMO though.
Yeah.
You do get FOMO. Like I see people post saying like I raised 250 grand or like $2 million, and you're like, it's pretty cool. And like it's an experience that we're not going to have. But I think the experience of like raising money from like clients who are like vested in your business is really special. One of the things that I think about that's kind of sad with like VC money, hire a big team and give them ESOP is that like you're not the only one who potentially retires or like who gets like really great financial outcomes.
You've done so much work.
Whereas I think like with auto editing, like let's say the team maxes out at 5 people, like you deliver a great outcome to 5 people. Whereas like the last startup I worked at, you know, when they get acquired or whatever it is, there might be 30 people in that business and like they're all going to be good. And like the founder knows like, I just changed all of these guys who like I love their lives, which is pretty special versus growing something for yourself.
But I think
but you can. There's bootstrap business that do that.
You'll do that.
Yeah.
They can give like at a certain. I can't think of the examples right now, but there was recently a company that they got acquired and they were like, you know what, we're taking a portion of the acquisition money and giving it to all of our staff, like portions, like as if they had equity and stuff.
Yeah.
So you can still do that. It's not as normal. I mean. Yeah, if you're one greedy MFR, you don't have to do that. You just take it all, take it everything. But
do you have any tips on like it's been you and Kira for what a year almost? How is managing the kind of co-founder relationship been? And like things like decision making and coming up to kind of conclusions on key decisions on. Should this logo be green or blue? Should this be like, you know what I mean? Where you're, it's not like, obviously he wins on anything tech related, you win on anything sales related, but when there's things that cross over like brand or what's going wrong and like, how do you kind of resolve conflict?
Yeah. It's so like, that's, it's like the number one reason why businesses will fail. It's just like the founders fall out.
Yeah.
Kira and I have done really well. Like we haven't really had any conflicts. I don't think we've done really well because we're quite siloed. Which sounds counterintuitive, but I say siloed in that like he has all of the decisions made on tech and product and software. I have opinions on that, but they're very loosely held.
Right.
And he makes the call, and it's the same thing with marketing and sales. He kind of lets me do it, but he's obviously always there for feedback and riffing. But again, like strong opinions, very loosely held. And then where things cross over is like we don't put a lot of thought into the corporate brand or like the color of the logo. I'm not we don't have a designer on the team. Yeah. So Kira, again, just like he has that and like, it's good. Like it works.
Like you're getting, I guess it's you're not, everything's in a positive place. So you're not kind of working out like, why aren't things working? Like,
yeah, we haven't been tested for sure.
Also, you guys weren't randoms, right? Like you guys met at Revolt. I think it's probably everyone's that wants to start a business and needs a co-founder or a technical co-founder or whatever. I think it's probably the first step. Look within your network to find someone that you've already worked with before. If you have to get something completely random, that is a lot harder.
Yeah,
because you just don't know what skeletons will come out of the closet 6 months down the line, and you've already committed this much. You put in this money, blah blah blah. So I think it's good. You already knew that he was a badass at Revolt, and he needed that of you. And I'm glad you guys have found that sort of yin yang as like the perfect co-founder relationship.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting if we like if we go through like strife or like hard times or whatever. The other thing that like, and this has really come up recently because Kira and I are like now getting very close. Like for the last,
talk every day.
For a while it was a side hustle, and then this whole year it's been full time, and we're talking every day. And he's the guy that I spend the most time with. out of anyone in the world.
Yeah.
This is like your boyfriend. Pause.
Yeah,
But, you know what I mean?
we
And he's in fucking Canada.
You're in a
Yeah.
relationship. Like, this
Yeah,
is-
we're in a relationship.
Yeah.
We're married, like we're in bed. And like since stuff has started going really well for us, like in the last 3 months, we've really accelerated. Like we're genuinely on the phone at like 11:30 at night and just like talking about how special this is. And like we
How special you are.
like we've literally told each other that we love each other. Like we've like
Yeah.
and he's like, you're my second best friend after my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And like we've never even met in person.
Whoa.
Yeah, never met in
You
person.
haven't met in person.
You totally see that stuff. Like
That's- yeah.
you've got
Wow.
Nora and Darcy at Shuffle of like they would talk with each other more than they talk to their girlfriends.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so important to me. Like
Yeah.
he's so important
Yeah.
to me. And like we communicate that. Like holy shit.
Yeah.
Like I've like the it's so special growing something with someone that you enjoy hanging out with and spending time with, that you get along really well with. And it's like I don't know. It's just cool. Like it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And part of it's because I think like we're young, and when you're in these like weird situations, it's like a mix of like pinch me, like what the hell is happening? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And you kind of share that with him because he's also like, what the hell is happening, Hamish?
It's also pinch me, but this was all part of our plan we wrote a year ago.
Yeah.
No, it's like we've actually done
This
it.
is
though.
reminding me, and sadly, of Andre. Just because Andre
he's
talks
not
about how
dead, by the way. He's just away.
He's going to come back soon. He is a solopreneur, if that's the word. And the way, like, he's probably listening to you talk about,
Yeah,
you know,
the pride
and
and
he's
love.
probably crying right now because
Crying in the club.
it is, you know, you're going through this this is a unique journey. You're 22 and you're building a business, you're building a Shopify app with someone across the world. And it is it's a very unique business, pathway where not a lot of your friends have, probably have gone through the same thing. And so if you were doing it alone, think about like how lonely and like the motivation to keep each other accountable and keep going. So it'd be cool to actually get you and Andre to talk about like
the contrast.
because I'm sure there's benefits to being like a solo entrepreneur, like solo co-founder or solo founder thing. But for the most part, like he definitely has like a tear down
because
I could not
like
imagine.
it helps with the I don't know, because Grog, I'm not solo. Like, there's a lot of support, but everyone else has their own businesses and stuff. So, like, this is my business, and I don't have someone I can message 24/7, just bang, 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 and which I did have with the pharmacy app, and it really helps keep, if one of you is down one day, if you've had a fucking massive week and you're like, I just don't know what we're doing, man. Like, I can't get a new client, blah, blah, blah. And then the other one's like, no, he's like working, keeping that kind of narrative going of like, no, we're going to fucking make this. Whereas if you're on your own, you have to do that with yourself, which is really, really hard. Obviously, it's probably a good exercise to not like have to rely on other people and stuff. But yeah, I think an important thing as well, and you're really lucky. You've got Kira, but then you've got, I guess, like a group of friends, and like you're working around people that like the stress of working in startups, the kind of like how maybe a Noah or a Darcy deals with like issues and conflicts, and just being able to like bounce stuff off people who it's not like. If you reach out to someone else about advice for like context, someone be like, you reach out to me like, oh, I want to do this LinkedIn post. Like, what's the best way to structure it, right? And it's like, it was like, if you reach out to someone you don't know, they're going to fucking ask you to pay them for it. You know what I mean? Whereas us, it's like, oh, you just fucking call and ask. Like, what's the problem? And it's like, you can like kind of bounce ideas off them, and it's really good support, I feel.
Yeah. And like you guys know what good looks like, which I reckon is a huge, huge, huge advantage that I had since moving country. Is that like I'm now surrounded by people who know what good looks like, and knowing what good looks like is very hard to do in your early 20s when you've only worked for a year.
Yeah.
And where I think like I remember like at uni, like I would get good grades because I like knew what good looks like from a uni perspective, and then you go into the working world, and like it's wild the attention to detail that you need to like stand out.
Yes.
I guess people have done it for 10 years and whatnot.
Because like you go from, I don't know, like you go from school, which I know in my school I had 50 people and like in my grade, and you go to uni, there's like 50, 100,000 people. And then you go to the world, that's 7 billion people. Like that's who you're now trying to differentiate against. And like, you're right. It's honestly the world sometimes. When I was like in uni and like high school, I used to get so down thinking about like how cruel the world is and how hard this like, and like, especially when I like finished uni and was like, what am I going to do? Do I need a job? Do I need to do this? It's like just thinking about you are now on your own. No one's guiding you whatsoever. No. You don't have like, it's just, it's so sad that if you fuck up, no one is. This is going to get really sad, but you get what I'm saying. I don't want to get too mopey.
I think like the happy side of that story is like, and you've done a YouTube video about this that I watched like the other week. Yeah, I've been on the YouTube channel.
One view. Yes.
It was this graph of, here's where you are right now, and these are the opportunities that you have in front of you, and you want to move up that graph. And the people in our friend group have like moved up that graph.
Yeah.
And like that's why you create content to create opportunities.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier on, you're just like, oh yeah, I when I moved here, I felt behind.
Yeah.
And to some people, this is, I don't know, like to me, whenever I feel that, I use it as motivation. Like, I'm now around these cool people that are further ahead than me. And, to the right person in the right mental space, that's advantageous because now you're like, this is the new average I need to. So you start acting the way they do and make decisions like they do, and eventually you'll get to that average, and then it never ends. You're gonna meet more cool people that are at this level in terms of success, and you're gonna try and keep. It's a ladder you climb, and you have to balance that, knowing that never ends. But I think to someone in the wrong headspace, that is actually pretty damaging.
Crushing.
It's crushing seeing like other young people that in this aspect of their life, whether it's financially or whatever, doing better than you. It's crushing. I think I think we're all wired in that type A mode of, we kind of see it as motivating and it helps us, and we don't get down by it. But I think to most people, they are type B, where they do get legitimately like crushed by it. And I don't know. We don't have a type B in this room, so
I feel like
laugh at them. But no, I just wanted to like put out that I recognize it's like a serious issue that I think a lot of young people go through today, especially with social media as well. Like I don't think we really flex that much, but there's a lot of
the hustle porn.
There's a lot of young people that will flex, and you look at, see the car they have, or the money and the houses, and for you literally had it in your own family. You saw your brother who was this like very successful YouTuber, instead of buying all these things.
Money, and I guess he's not too crazy though. That's what's good.
But
humble.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it seems like you used it to your advantage. You never got really down by it. Like, I like it when people flex. Like, I legitimately like seeing other people do well.
Yeah.
It makes me happy. It makes me hungrier. But I understand to the wrong person. They will be crying at night with a weighted blanket on them, wanting to not be a part of this life anymore.
Yeah. And that's where you get all the warm fuzzies when people like reach out to you about like your YouTube videos or what you're posting on LinkedIn or whatever, and they say like it's inspiring. Like that's like maybe you converted a type B to a type A, which should be hella sick. Yeah. The thing that I reckon, like, why we're a room full of type A, when I think about like why I've done what I've done and why I like think the way that I do, I come back to that like the self-belief thing, but also I think like I'm not a part of a norm. Like, I feel like I'm a little bit like weird.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I feel like you guys both
You're a little bit fucked up.
Like, I think those type B people, they look at like me posting on LinkedIn or like other people that are succeeding in life, and they're like, I'm not that type of person. I could never do that.
Yeah.
But like, we were all the same people.
Why
obviously got some different resources and the opportunity scale, but people say to me, they say, oh, you should post more content on different channels because it's very unique to hear someone while they're growing it. Like, we're not a success story. Like, we're doing well, but we're nowhere near like your goals or whatever. It's like just started.
Success stories are really boring.
We're 4 months old. Like, it's just started.
I don't want to see you driving a Lambo. I want to see like your day-to-day fucking grind. All the stress and
people love that we're sharing it as it's going.
Yeah.
And like, it's fun.
Well, I was just thinking about when you were at Revolt and decided to start posting, and you used that situation to your advantage by posting. You jumped on the opportunity and then also you had self-belief behind that, where you're like, you know what, you had the self-belief enough that I think this is interesting. Yeah. I'm going to click the post button, and I don't care what anybody else thinks about it because I think this is interesting, and I think someone else will think this is interesting. My own little version of that was when I bought the Animoca shares and I did that transaction, I sent to my friends. I was like, I just robbed a bank because I had so much belief that this was going to work out, and so I pounced on the opportunity, and that's all it is. It's like you have to just keep trying to engineer the luck to get until you start getting opportunities coming your way, and then you just have to have the self-belief and the aggressiveness to jump on the opportunity. Because people are filled with luck every single day. I don't think people realize it. It's just because they don't make the jump to capture it. But there is so many opportunities that you are like very like subconscious to that are available to you. You have a knack. People that have a knack for seeing what's in front of them, but also like the invisible things that are in front of them, and just like pouncing on them with that belief. Will be mega successful in the careers. And
it's one of those things. Like, how do you? That's one of the things that like I wish you could distill into like a good blog or like a good lecture or like whatever. It's how do you train your nose for opportunity? Because I feel like I've got a good nose for opportunity. Yeah, like I can smell it and then I go for it.
Ed, you were like. I didn't know if you're putting Hamish into a box or not, but you're like, you're gonna have a family of apps and you're gonna run this and stuff. Is that what's next? Is that what you want to do? Do you want to do something completely different? Let's fingers crossed. This business is a major success. You sell it or whatever. What is next?
That's one of the things that people talk to me about a lot. They're like, oh, any other spur off app, like immediate win, because you've already got 500 customers to sell it to, and like people will just like invest in you and whatever. But like, and this might change. But one of the conversations that I've had like with mentors and with my parents and in therapy is that like B2B software sales to get rich isn't like the most fulfilling job in the world.
Nope.
Like Shopify apps, like we're not like, I've been talking about it and how like teaching and inspiring and things like that, I get a lot of fulfillment out of. Yeah. And when I was 16 or 17, like I said, my dream job is to be a university lecturer.
Right.
And I still think that's a really good idea for me. Like I think that's maybe where I'll be most happy. I've never stood in those shoes.
Yeah.
But when we thought about this business and when I set those goals, and I remember when I was quitting my job, I rang up my boss and I said, and she asked me what's next, and I said my plan is to hit financial freedom, through an acquisition. Stand in the shoes of someone who doesn't need to do anything for financial incentive.
Yeah.
And figure out what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because like my whole life, every decision I've made, most decisions I've made have been driven by like monetary outcomes.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be the coolest bloody thing in the world to be young, retired, and be like, what I want to do now, and not have dollar figures be attached to the reason why.
Yeah. I want to go learn how to surf in Thailand. I want to go learn how to meditate in India. Like
I'm still a workaholic.
It's not like you're gonna retire in like a farm and
but you're
looking for the next thing you're passionate about.
If I was to predict what would happen, or like if I was to say my dream outcome as I think about it now, is like we sell the business for like
retirement,
for $20 million US.
Yeah.
Kira and I have a great outcome. I take a break. Like, because I've never had a gap year. I've never traveled around Europe by myself. I've never solo traveled. I do that naturally. And then I go back to uni and I study.
Yep.
And I keep creating content, and hopefully I've got an audience, and I get a lot of joy out of that. And like I can put food on the table outside of like tapping into the money pool that you've created. And then holy man of Cambridge University hit me up and say like, we're looking for a lecturer. I would be the first guy to put my hand up.
Yeah.
Like that's what I think about future looking, and it might change obviously.
That's really nice and wholesome, I think. And also it'll be really cool. It's good that you're like, just people are scared of saying like what they want or like what they aspire to be, especially in a public forum like this. Like this is a public podcast, so I think it's going to be really cool for you to listen back on this when you achieve amazing. Like some of the stuff you just said, like at each step of the way you kind of listen back and you're like, oh, it's kind of like Elon Musk's secret plan that he posted, those blog posts that he's done where he says, I'm going to do this. And then 10 years later, you literally read through it and he's did this. That's
why I really like goal setting as well. And like, making it whether it's on a podcast, whatever it is, if it's just a piece of paper on your wall, because you can also kind of gauge how much you've changed in terms of your, like what's happened in your life. It's like whether it was, I wanted to launch a fucking pregnancy water canned drink like 2 years ago. And like the goal for that year was, it's still a good idea. I just don't have the time. But like the goal for that, and you look back and you guys are like, oh my God, it's so different. I'm in a better position anyway. So you can look at the same thing and be like, well, it was crazy to think we'd sell for 20, we sold for 200 or like whatever it is. But I think at Monash, there was like the one class I liked was called, I think it's called Fast Track now, but this guy called Dave was an engineering like absolute animal for probably 25 years at this Japanese company. And then he basically retired, made a bunch of money and retired and became a surfer. And then he built this program at RMIT that was basically an 8-week short course on like everything that you've gone through, right? Knowing your customer, any kind of personas, mind mapping, brainstorming, business names, everything. And you're just trying to solve a problem. And you do that for 8 weeks. And then at the end, you present your idea to like a bunch of potential investors. And it's all kind of like play time, but it's real investors and they like judge your pitch and stuff. But I think, something like that could be really cool. And I think the university system, at least on my end, really lacked a kind of perspective on entrepreneurship. And you could kind of bring that and be like, hey guys, I know like I'm like the same age. If you're 25, there will be 25-year-olds in your class.
How cool would that be?
Like you could be
the coolest thing
hey
in the
guys,
world.
yeah, I've already spent 3 years like in Europe traveling with my girlfriend and surfing and doing whatever the fuck. And then you're like, yeah, I did this because I did these steps. And you can kind of show them. And if some like, I want a long career in law or this, that's totally fine. But you can probably, that would be a really good, I guess, success metric for you is like, how do I develop a great course that inspires people to like build something?
And I think that's why because obviously I'm building an audience and you can have that educational piece through content, but I still really like the idea of uni lecturing because it's so physical. Like I think we all watch YouTubers and they can feel like miles away from you.
Yeah.
And you were in that situation once where you were in a lecture and
But I think like if I was sitting in a lecture theater and a 25-year-old was teaching me and like he had gone through what you needed to do to get to that position.
My ears would perk up.
It is really like, it's very tangible.
It's
whereas
juicy,
YouTube,
right?
whereas YouTube can feel very far away. Like people could listen to this podcast and be like, that Hamish guy, like that's impossible. But if I'm sitting in front of you having a conversation, you'll realize like they're just normal people.
Yeah.
And the goal thing's huge. Like when we were like my one piece of advice always, when people ask like, how are you doing what you're doing? Or like, why'd you start doing what you're doing? Was I set that goal at 25 and then, you thought crypto or company. And you just got to think about how you get from A to B. And if you don't like what the journey is going to look like to get there, then change your goal.
Yeah.
But I looked at like grow a business and grow an audience and I thought like I can do that. And that sounds like a really fun plan and I'm going to execute on that plan. But if it was terrifying and I didn't want to do it, then I wouldn't have the same goal. I'd change my target. And I love the clarity that it gives me and it gives the business where like when we talk about 20 mil buyout, like I know the steps that we have to take to get there, and it feels achievable and we have a lot of confidence, and it's a lot less like obscure than we're going to grow this business to be as big as possible. Like personally, I find it really helps our strategy and guiding our thinking.
I guess the 2 mil at 25 goal is almost part of a longer plan for, it's like you do in the modern age need money. For freedom, a certain amount.
Houses are expensive.
They are expensive, and traveling is expensive, and whatever food.
You'll get there before 25. But
that's gonna be crazy. It's probably next year. But I don't know. I think it's a path to kind of personal fulfillment where you'll have even more freedom to choose exactly what gives you fulfillment and have no decision making involved like with regards to money, which is gonna be fantastic.
And the thing is that this is all in hindsight, right? Like the majority of the time what happens is you move the goalposts, and that's what like my mentors say to me all the time. Like there's a guy that we like might give a board seat and like might invest in the business to give us like some accountability. And he like, and naturally because you're going to be invested, you want the number to be as big as possible. He says like you're going to get to like a 20 mil buyout and you're going to be like there's still so much more to do here. And I literally stop him over coffee and I go like, no, like when we get that offer, like my dream is to take that offer. I hope I don't move the goalpost.
Because
it's enough. It's enough. It's more than enough. Like, it's way more than enough.
We'll see if you stick to it.
But you'll see if I stick to it. Yeah.
It's gonna be.
So
and the cool thing is I'll look back on the thinking. You'll get the offer and like in the headline of the strategy book, the whole point of the strategy book is that I have like the thinking, like all of the thinking that got me to where I am today and like where I think I get to the next place. And so when I get to the next place, like let's say, we get to the 1 mil ARR, I can look back and see what I thought would get us there. what I think will get us to 2 mil, and you almost have like an external perspective, and you're not as emotionally invested because like 21-year-old Hamish had this idea.
Yeah.
How does that contrast with now emotionally invested, greedy 23-year-old Hamish?
People should like just once a year write down their thinking to compare it to themselves a year ago and see what's changed and what are they going to stick to. I don't know if you know this, but I actually did a university tour where I went and started talking at universities. And this was maybe like 2 years ago. This was after I had my big investment workout and stuff, and I got invited to some universities. And one thing I will say, doing that, I also love like helping people and educating them. And it's like when it's in person, you see their faces directly. Like when it's on content, you don't see who you're affecting. But I always, two things I noticed. One was, you're right, since I was their age, I saw everybody listening, and which is very rare. Like university lectures and stuff like no, it's like half the class is like watching porn or something. But like everybody was perked up listening. Second thing is like, you do have that aspect of after you do your lecture or you speak to someone, you do your presentation, you'll have a bunch of people like, you can see them like they're a bit nervous. They're coming towards you. They want to talk to you and ask you questions. And like, you just don't get that through the content. So, I can't wait for you to, I want to be in your first university lecture. I want to be like in the audience. I'm like,
Melbourne University, hit me up.
Get
like
this old ass motherfucker out of this room. But it'll be really cool when you do it. Because I can tell when you speak about it, like I can tell that that is like something that would make you genuinely happy. And give you some purpose.
And you crave it when you're only online. Like I love when people message me or invite me out to coffee. Like I literally wrapped up a LinkedIn post a couple of days ago, and the end message was like, if you want to put yourself out there and create opportunity, like why the hell haven't you messaged me yet? Like just like hit me up.
That guy,
Like hit me up, like please.
Guys, if you're watching this towards the end of the podcast, if you're still watching, literally message Hamish. If you're in Melbourne or maybe anywhere in Australia, maybe he might do a tour and just go, can I grab coffee with you? But for the right reasons. Why should he grab coffee with you? And this guy's a machine. He'll probably do it.
We've had people reach out to us wanting to use like grog as a case study for their university assignments and stuff. So the same thing, it's like, if you want to reach out to Hamish, I think it's a pretty good case study. Technology startup, founded in Australia.
Say that you listen to this entire podcast and you know his story. Like mention things that like people wouldn't know about him that you got through this podcast, and that might catch his attention. And I literally at this point I get like 150 messages a day, and most of them are people I'll show you after this. Someone probably emailed me this morning going like, I am like starving, I don't have any money, send me money. Like instead of and like give me a job because I need money. Whereas you should probably, if you want a job from someone, you should probably state like your skill sets and how you can help them, and be rather than saying I'm dying.
Like just in Mr. Beast's emails, I remember them because it was
insane.
Like it was just constant. Like I need just $5. Like I couldn't look at it; it'd be so dark. Like my family's starving. Mr. Beast, please give us like $100,000.
I'm not laughing because like that part's sad, but it's just funny. Just like
they're asking Mr. Beast for money. Like he looks at those emails.
The coolest thing that has happened now is I remember when we had a guest lecturer come and present, and at the end of it he said like, if you want like help or like you want to talk to me about something, invite me out for coffee. And I hit him up and invited him out for coffee. And the biggest mistake I made as a like naive uni student was I didn't bring an agenda. Like I just wanted to chat, and like I didn't like have something specific that I needed from him. And during the conversation he was like, what do you want? Like what do you want from me? And I didn't have the answer, and now I'm having those conversations with people sometimes. Like you get the message, and I'm like, dude, like I love that you've hit me up, but like what do you want from me? If we're gonna like spend 30 minutes, like I want you to get something out of it. And like they sometimes like maybe if they're a B type person or whatever, they take it as like aggression. But I'm like, no, like genuinely, like let's have a valuable conversation. Pretty cool looking back on that. Like that just came.
You're on the other side now.
I was like, I had that. Like I didn't bring the agenda, and now I'm saying to people, like,
we were probably the same. When I look back at when I reached out to people, I would write like a 2,000 word essay, and it'd be like nothing would be in relation to why I would be of any value to the person. Whereas now, like being on the other side, where people reach out, I'm like, I constantly like I do look at. Not all of them, but probably most of the messages. And I think a lot of these people, if they're not famous, like they're reading the DMs, you're just not getting a response because you're fucking like, your intro,
Gotta be
your
juicy.
message is shit. It's way too long and it's jargon, and you need to like really and that's such a that's a great skill set to develop.
And recognizing that like Hamish is in an early stage of a business, he needs like you can look at multiple facets of his business. He's mentioned he wants a second developer. He probably needs more salespeople. Someone in America, like. You can look at him and go, all right, I can come in. Maybe I can be Hamish's sales intern and manage his calendar for a month. And like, there's a lot of things that I can just come in and help you with. So I don't know. I think that's, yeah.
That message thing's huge.
Yeah.
I learned that work and sales as well. Sales is so underrated. I don't know why they don't talk about it at uni. Like do a year in sales and you'll learn how to write a great email and how to pitch yourself and how to tell your story and tell the story of a business, like vital skill.
Yeah.
Vital skill. I'm so glad I did that year in like B2B SaaS sales, life-changing.
I have a funny story that I might have already told you about. I'll share the podcast about my stint at like an IRL sales job. Because when I think about sales,
door to door, baby.
He was Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, this was literally like when I think about sales, I agree. I think every senior enough role is just a sales role.
Yeah.
So as when you start delegating, you just become a salesman. So I agree that the skill set of knowing how to sell and sales is really important. But unfortunately, sales gets a really bad rep. And for the reasons I'm about to divulge here, like I remember there was a job, I just needed a job and I was looking on Seek and it was like a door knocking like sales job. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll do it. I remember rocking up to the office and it was like, a decent little office. They said you have to wear a suit. So I wore a suit and there was a bunch of other like uni looking people like in suits waiting in the lobby with me, and I see like a flurry of people walk in all in suits, run through the office, loud, proud, like whoa, like blah blah blah. I'm thinking like, wait, what is this, like what are they doing here? They go into like this boardroom looking place, and the glass is it's glass wall, so it's transparent, so I can see directly in, and people start like doing the and I'm like, is that awful? Like, is this like a stockbroking firm or something? Like, what's going on? And they're like going crazy, like, this person did this much fucking sales.
Oh my God.
And I was thinking like, where the fuck am I right now? And then the worst part of it was a fucking scamming company that like, they knock on people's doors to like sell subscriptions to charities, like raffles into charities. And so they did that whole thing in the boardroom in suits. They walked out all silently, go into the changing rooms, and came out in charity gear. And they're like, all right, off to work. I'm thinking, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I ended up doing the job for like a couple of days or whatever, or a couple of weeks. I forget how long it was. But yeah, it was, there was, I remember, I hope he's watching this right now. There was my guidance person, my teacher, or like my boss. He wasn't that much older than me, but he was like, I remember we were like in his car going to one of these low socioeconomic suburbs to scam people just to donate to charity to their customers. We're in the car and he was like, oh, you're like, you know how much fucking money I'm going to make this year?
Oh my God.
I'm like, as a uni student, I'm like, oh no, like what is like, if I do hit everything right, like $125,000. And I'm like, oh, that'd be great if I could make that as well. He's like, yeah, I'm going to be a millionaire in 5 years. And he's like, do you want to become a millionaire? And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. Like, he's trying to like hype me up and stuff. Yeah. He starts writing out and this. He's like, if you do 260 doors a day times by this, by that, or whatever. He's like, you will be a millionaire in 5 years. Like 5 years after me.
Yeah.
He's like, after, and I'm like, I'm just thinking about that now. I'm like, motherfucker. Yeah. That's yeah.
DJ
anyway.
energy.
Yeah. Anyway, that's. So sales.
Not that type of sales role.
Yeah. B2B sales and all that stuff. But just sales in general does get a bad rep. But learning how to hone into that skill, and it doesn't need to be in a startup, but it makes sense in a startup because it's so like grungy and you have to like learn a lot of the processes yourself. And being like I think the word is autodidactic, which self-learning, like you don't put your hand up when something goes wrong. You just go on Google or you learn yourself and that's how you like learn not to be a bitch.
All right, Hamish has one of his many sales calls to go into right now. So we can wrap this baby up.
We have to wrap up. Thank you for coming on today. This was
good chat.
I think this was good. Guys,
so much fun.
Go to Hamish's LinkedIn right now and
we'll put all his stuff in the bio.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Hell yeah.